hope you're fine. I hope everybody is doing well. So we are going to continue with our series on daring abroad, and in this one, we are going to talk about a lady called Rose. And Rose decided to relocate to Geneva, and so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, this is going to be about relocating with a job. So Rose did her studies, graduated, and finished everything. Everything seemed perfect in her life. She had, the everything was just working out perfectly. She met a guy in campus. He was a few years ahead of her. When she graduated, they got married. They had two children, and everything was going fine. Their marriage was, I mean, it had its ups and downs, but it was a marriage like any other marriage. And each of them were working well. She was in accounting and she was enjoying her career, and she was moving from one company to another, getting like really um, everything was working perfectly. They bought a house. The husband was working also, and everything was good. Like by normal standards, everything was good. So one day, they go to visit a friend, and the friend was relocating to the US. The friend had just got a green card, and this kind of got Rose thinking, because she started thinking, well, I mean, it's not so bad to actually move out of the country. And I mean, we have everything, but would it really be that bad if we moved out and just, you know, lived a few years outside the country? So this is a thing that comes into her head, and then she discusses it with her husband, and he said, "No, I'm not about to drop everything just so we can move." And yeah, I mean, the husband is an architect, so he's like, no, I'm not shifting my career to move to whatever you want to move to. And he has his own business, and he's doing fine. Basically, he's feeling like, okay, we're fine, we're fine. And so she continues with her life, and everything just moves on. And then she starts having issues with her boss. So some of the company changed management, and the new management was not very accommodating to her. So she felt a bit oppressed for the first time in her career. She felt like she was not growing. And so she tried looking for a job elsewhere, and things were just hard. It was just getting harder to find something. So she continues with this, and she decides that, okay, you know what? I am going to continue looking for a job. And she spreads her wings a little bit, and somehow on LinkedIn, she gets contacted by a headhunter who tells her that, listen, there's a position, and you would be based in Geneva, and this and this and this, and yeah, so gives her the full brief of what would happen. So explains to her, and then she decides, well, just for the sake of it, let me do the interview. So she goes for the interview, um, passes the first stage of the interview, passes the second stage of the interview, and then when it's at the third stage, things kind of get real, and she talks to her husband about it and says, listen, I've been looking for a job, so this is what happened. I kind of got interviewed for this position, and it actually looks like this thing is going to happen. And she decides that, okay, so the husband tells her, well, things are not going so well with his business anyway, so why not? It wouldn't be such a bad idea. And she thinks, okay. So they discuss the financial aspect of it, and it was interesting to discuss. Now, this is where we are going to have a small conversation about when you're offered a job outside the country. Now, One thing I've noticed is when people are offered jobs, the first thing they do is they convert the money into Kenya shillings before they decide that they want the job. You are not going to be paying your bills in Kenya shillings. What you need to do before you decide if that salary is good enough or not is figure out how much um, things cost in that particular country. So find out how much the rent is, find out how much, because I mean, you can be making an equivalent of 1 million Kenya shillings. That doesn't mean you're a millionaire by Swiss standards, because you just need to figure out how much do things cost in that country so that you realize you can judge how much you're going to be making. And then you think about what kind of a life you want. You think about what is important to you. Have your non-negotiables, especially if you're moving with your family. You do not, unless you really don't have an option. I mean, there are people who do not have an option. So this is not for people who do not have an option. This is the only chance they have. No, this is for somebody who you're actually considering this and you have a clear mind. You have other options. You can still survive in Kenya. They discuss with the husband, and when they're discussing with the husband, they start discussing. Okay, so the husband had done business administration, an MBA, and everything. So yeah, well, I mean, you can get a job also. It's okay. And they are talking to their friends, but they don't know anybody in Switzerland. So they're talking to people in the States, in the UK. They're talking to people all over Australia. So how is it in the diaspora? How is it? Now, one thing people don't realize is not all diaspora is made equal. What works in one country that probably might not work in another country. So one of the things they were getting is, oh, there are plenty of jobs. Don't worry, your husband will get a job, and so we'll call her husband Steve. So Rose decides, okay, fine. What I'll do is, if I'm offered this position, I'll take it. I'll move there. And then after a week or two, the family would join me, and so she negotiated being allowed, being paid for her family and things like that. There was so much that she didn't take into account, and so as things would have it, she gets the job, and we're going to discuss that in part 2. So this part 1, what I want to bring out is the fact that please find out what the living standards are in the place where you're going to live. What are the bare minimums that you're going to need? For example, if you're moving to the US, from what I understand, there are some states where public transport is not amazing, so you would need a car. There are places like New York where you can survive without a car. There are places that you would need to be very careful where you live, because not all places are safe. There are places that are amazingly safe. There are places that are not very friendly to foreigners. There are places that are friendly to foreigners. So you figure out all the information you can get. Nowadays there's Google. You can find out so much stuff. Second thing is reach out. I have had so many friends who reached out to me based on their husband or their friend has gotten a job in Geneva, and they wanted to find out a little bit about what happens, where, how, stuff like that. And there are so many like Facebook groups that you can join for the specific cities that you're considering moving to. Don't even go there asking questions. Just check what kind of problems everybody is complaining about. The minute you start seeing something that everybody seems to be complaining about, then you kind of decide for yourself if that is something you can live with, because clearly it's a problem for many people. So find out if that's something you feel you can live with. For example, if you go to a Geneva expatriates group on Facebook, the first thing you will notice is almost there is so much complaint about how boring Geneva is. I don't know why they keep saying this. I think they're the boring ones because I'm not bored. But there's so ask yourself, am I the kind of person who has to go out every single night? Am I the kind of person who cannot create my own fund? Do I actually need to have a concert every week for me to feel like I'm happy? Do I need everything to be open every day of the week for me to be happy? Figure it out. Figure out if these are things that will hinder you from enjoying your experience, because there's nothing as bad as moving to a different country, and then especially with your family, and then you reach there and you're not happy, especially the person who has moved the family, because your family takes the energy that you give out. You already have to be the provider, you already have to be the one to give to be able to provide the harmony and to unite the family. You're the glue that holds the family together. You're the one who brought them here. So you kind of need to be the one to excite everybody. And that's a big responsibility, right? And so the other thing you need to consider is the kind of, the language they speak in the country. It doesn't matter if you're going to be working in English or, it doesn't really matter. It kind of helps if you at least know the local language a bit, So if you're going to be moving to a different country, and especially if you're going to be moving there for a few years, I don't know why people are so proud saying things like, "Oh, I've been in Geneva for 10 years and I don't speak French. I'm getting along fine." It's a bit redundant, because you're not losing anything by learning a language. If anything, you're gaining something. You're gaining a bit of knowledge. You're gaining something. You're learning something new. And for most people, that's a lost opportunity. The fact that you've had a chance to not to learn something new, and then you lost that opportunity. So we continue. Tomorrow we will discuss about what happened once she moved. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Please leave a comment on what else you want to know about relocation, especially if you're relocating with a job, so that I can answer your questions at the end of the series.